Yeah, yeah.
It's a big difference. And this reed, it still doesn't sound bright and messed up. It's just a lot more vibrant. So this reed I really like playing. It's actually a little thin right now, so I might clip it. Um, I guess I'll do that. Should I clip it as well since we're doing the reed? Let me get my clipper. Stand by. Give me 1 second. I'll grab the clipper quick. Hang on.
Okay.
So this is how the clipping and sanding. Those are my two go-to methods for messing with reeds. My third thing for messing with reeds is excuse me. I have a really cool tool called a Reed Geek. You might have heard of it. It's a little. It's essentially a knife, like a knife. It's a little piece of metal cut like a three-dimensional rectangle. And with that thing, you can kind of edge up the reeds. You can cut it like a knife, but it's not as big as a knife. It's small, and they'll let you carry it on a plane, which is pretty cool. Unlike a knife, which oftentimes they'll confiscate. So you can edge up the reed, particularly if the reed. This one actually does have. It's not a problem, but if you compare, you see the edges of the reed, the way they ride up.
Yeah.
Right, compared to the reserve. The reserve is here. It's a different story. See the way the edge on the reserve? Like it's almost flat down there. Can you see it? It's not really. It's not really a full. The light may not.
Yeah, it's a little bit bright.
I'll
take your word for it.
Okay, so basically this one is like this. This one is like this. Like a very shallow. It's just because of the shape of the cane. And so if they're really like this, sometimes what will happen is the edges of the reed, the edges of the vamp really will intrude into the vibrational area of the reed and mess with your low notes. So reed geek is great because you can actually shave those puppies down and loosen your low notes up. The low notes are down here and high notes are up here. So low notes, when you get the low B flat, those if your reed vamp is reaching way up here, or the bark is up here, you're going to have issue with your low notes. And so a reed geek is great for that. So if you have a reed that you just want to get, you can oftentimes take a reed that won't work and get a reed geek and sandpaper or a clipper. That's a clipper right there. See that?
Yep.
And between these three tools, you can make almost any reed do something. Maybe not the one you use on a gig, but it might be good for the practice room. You know, so your gig reed gets to, you reserve that, you save it. Because every reed has a number of vibrations that it can tolerate before it dies, right? So if you're practicing on a reed that's a secondary reed, obviously it'll affect the sound and whatnot. So you have to be kind of mindful that it's not your main reed and your response. Don't build any bad habits or whatever. But if you mess with the reed and get it to the point where it vibrates and works, even if it doesn't sound great, you can still use it and not waste the $8 that reeds cost, you know. And so that's why I love working on them, because I can get something out of almost any reed. And boy, that's a lifesaver and a money saver. And because I label them all, I can tell what reed is doing what. And so that's pretty much, you know, long story short, is my reed system. So now I got this clipper in here. I'm going to take a little bit off of this tip. I'm not going to take too much off. If I take too much off and the reed's too thick, I got to sand it, which is stupid, right? I clip it, I sand it, clip and sand it. Before long, there's no reed left, right? So clearly I'm going to take off just a little tiny bit off the very edge. And I'll see if that makes it a little less, little more resistant. Because right now it's super unresistant, like whatever that means. Super, it's too easy, and so it's not particularly fun to play. So I'm going to take a little bit off the tip, and just see if you can hear the difference or see if you can detect the difference between the way it was and the way it's going to be. So with the reed clipping, you have to take your time, because once you clip it, that's it, you know. So don't rush clipping. Try to do it very carefully, just a little bit of time. I cut off. The amount of cut off is probably, I would say, 1/10 of a millimeter or 1/5 of a millimeter. So it's very little. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. So I'd rather clip it a few times and clip off too much and have it be too thick, because that's a drag. So. Alright, here we go. Clip, boom, there it goes. I'll tell you a funny clipping story in just a second. Let me just try it, see how I did. So I got took the edge off a little bit, see if it feels any different or sounds any different. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay. Really get that edge lined up. That line and line that edge up is really, really important. I've had that thing bit off and had some definite bummed out playing experiences with the reed not aligned right. So take a little time for that. Now that is definitely different. It probably doesn't sound different, but definitely feels different. And honestly, I don't really like it, to be honest. But I think I may have the line wrong, so let me just check it again. Oh yeah, let's see. Let me just line it better. Sometimes clipping doesn't work, and sometimes it works. Usually it works. So, as long as you don't clip off too much. If you clip off too much, it's a problem. But if clip off just a little, I only did a little, so I think I'm going to be okay with this one eventually. But it definitely changes some of the response when you clip off the tip of it. So. That's pretty good. To be honest, in this case, there's not a huge difference. I'm not sure. I don't think you can hear a difference. Maybe you can. I don't feel that much of a difference. It's a little harder, a little more resistant. Than the one I was playing before was super buzzy and super easy, and now it's a little more resistant. So I'm not sure if it's resistant in a better way, but sometimes it is. It just depends on the reed. But having that tool, having that ability is huge, because playing a reed that's too thin, no fun at all. I can't stand it. So anyway, so the tools, the reeds, I mean, there's a kind of a long run, I guess, in terms of answering your question, but at least I think I tried to be a little bit thorough about it, so hopefully that could give you some insights that are helpful.